Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we got the fourth sneak peek and the third new character announced for the upcoming X-Men update. So we got Iceman, we got Bishop yesterday, and now we get hit with the female Jubilee, Jubilation Lee announced, and I'm actually very excited. I'm very much a fan of Jubilee because, you know, in the comics, a lot of times she's kind of like Wolverine's daughter. She's not really his daughter, but she kind of looks up to him as a father figure. I look up to Wolverine as a father figure, so basically me and Jubilee have a lot in common. And now on top of that, I have to say that specifically for this sneak peek, I don't know how the CM, the community manager, did this. I don't know if this was Alfonso or if this was the new community manager, but they tapped into my childhood and hopefully a lot of your childhoods, because when I was just a young, 8, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, I was watching the X-Men animated series. Dun 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 dun. Okay, I promised I wouldn't sing in the videos anymore, and I haven't done that for a long time. Unless you watch the streams, I sing all the time. But that X-Men animated series is where I first met, and in the very first episode of the series, you meet Jubilee, and that's when I met Jubilee, and I fell in love with the character, and she's amazing. And this sneak peek specifically cuts to the core of my childhood. You know, it says, "This mutant is a menace. Just look at what she's done to the VCR." Well, check out this clip to get a bit of a reminder.
What if we were wrong? What if she isn't a mutant?
Are you kidding? Look what she did to the VCR just by touching it.
And I was just blown away as soon as I saw this. Now, on top of that, there's usually something hidden in some of the sneak peeks, not all of them, but for this particular sneak peek, you can see that there's numbers here, and it says 10/31/92. And now the 10/31/92 actually is October 31st, or Halloween, 1992. And this was pointed out to me by a few people in my Twitch chat. The first person, I believe, was Patrick Quinlan, so thank you to you, who pointed out that this is actually when the X-Men animated series first debuted on television. And if you go over to their Wikipedia page for X-Men, the animated series, which is where I got that, very catchy da-na-na-na-na-na theme song from, it debuted right there, October 31st, 1992. So it's a beautiful sneak peek. I really have to give it up to Netmarble. They're so good at making these sneak peeks, and this is literally one of the best still image sneak peeks we have ever gotten. I love the moving one, the video ones like we had for Endgame, and we've had for other updates, but this has to be one of the most clever, and for me, one of the most cherished sneak peeks for how much it reminds me of my childhood. And apologies to everyone who's going to have to stop the video now and go look up the X-Men animated theme song and watch it. Additionally, if you are going to do that, you should also look up the Japanese version, because somehow it's also amazing and actually kind of different. If we go over to Mobrum, if we go over to the Netmarble forums, where there's lots of logical and intelligent conversation being had, and there isn't any repetitive derivative nonsense, you will see that CM Fragment is reporting in with a pretty standard, I don't want to read this, but it's just a pretty standard post here, talking about weird energy from an unidentified individual. They're going to investigate, etc., and we have to find the owner of the store. It didn't happen in a store, buddy. It happened at Jubilee's foster parents' house. So now I want to take the time to explain a little bit about Jubilee, because of course we have to hit that coveted 10-minute mark. And so I don't really have a specific character that I want to focus on here, so we're just going to go over to Wolverine, and we're going to equip his best uniform here. Or actually, we'll go OG uniform for Wolverine. But as far as Jubilee goes, Jubilee's powers are pretty straightforward. She is able to emit, and this is basically what we can expect from the character. She's able to emit like pyrokinetic, so basically like fireworks, from her body. And she's able to do this on a small level, which would just be like sparkles to blind you or disorient you, all the way to like massive explosions. So in a way, she's kind of like Gambit, whereas Gambit has to charge the energy into something. Jubilee just lets the energy go in different sizes and in different intensities. And so she could release something that's very small, but then explodes in a very large explosion. And to be honest, from what I've read in the comics and from what I've read online, her powers are actually massive. Even though she doesn't take advantage of them fully, she is one of those characters who has insane potential given that her powers are so widely usable. So for example, she could send a spark, and again, this doesn't really apply to Marvel Future Fight, it's just an interesting little tidbit to know, and in case Netmarble makes her super OP, now you'll know where they got the inspiration from. She could send like a single spark of energy up into someone's nose, because she can control not only the direction that the energy takes, but also when it detonates. So she can send a sparkle out of her finger, just a small little blip of energy into someone's nose, into their brain, and then let it go, and the person could die, or their brain could catch on fire, or they could have like a stroke, or some sort of, you know, mental kind of episode. That's insane. And in the comics, she's even exploded entire buildings with you know, insane energy that she's kind of pumped up and then released, you know, in the huge litter of explosions. So she's actually a mutant that, although she is, you know, a teenager, and in the comics she's usually like comedic relief, or she's kind of like the squirrel girl kind of the mutants. She's kind of like the peppy go-getter who dresses in bright colors. She actually has massive untapped power, and she could be like a top level mutant if she was aggressive and she took advantage of her powers, and she was like super, you know, super like she was Wolverine basically. But besides that, she doesn't really have a lot of other powers. She has some gymnast background, I believe, so that does make her you know, possibly able to jump around, and she has some hand-to-hand combat training, and she's learned more from her time with the X-Men and her time with Wolverine. So in terms of characters that she could fit the bill to kind of emulate, if you're kind of wondering, well, what could we expect from someone like Jubilee, I would honestly suggest, or I would think either Blast or Speed. Now I say Speed because we've had already a few Speed mutants, so it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility. And even though some of these Speed mutants use energy type attacks like Angel and Rogue, they're still typed as Speed, so it's definitely possible. I think it's kind of a 50-50 toss-up between Blast and Speed, but if both Iceman and Bishop are Blast, I would expect Jubilee to be Speed, just to balance it out, because, you know, we're coming up on 50 Blast characters. And honestly, if I was going to relate it to an actual specific character, if you check out a lot of Moon Girl's skills, she has a lot of sparkles and a lot of these sorts of effects. I think that they're going to draw some inspiration from that for her skills, but personally, I would really like them to make Jubilee play a lot like our Infinity War Star-Lord. And the reason why I say that is because Star-Lord, he has skills that, you know, let off a whole bunch of different effects even if you cancel them. So for example, like his fourth skill, there's so much action here, there's so much there's so many hits, there's so many blasts, there's so many little explosions that could easily be seen if you kind of made each different explosion, each different bullet a different color as it flies out in a circle. That could totally be Jubilee just spinning in a circle, waving her hands and letting out like a giant cyclone of explosions and kind of pyrotechnics, fireworks. In addition to that, Star-Lord, like some other characters, has the advantage of being able to skill cancel a lot. So I really hope that they give us a character like Jubilee who has that ability where you can kind of spam multiple skills and you can skill cancel, and the effects will linger. Because of the fact that Jubilee can like let these sparkles off and let these fireworks off and then control them later on, she doesn't have to just fire them off one by one. It would be a really great opportunity to do that, and you could also have it seem, or you could also have it look a lot like there was a Universal character that I was going to relate it to that also has that ability, but now I forgot who it was. Kind of like Dr. Doom, I guess, in the way that those balls kind of track around the field, exploding. But there was someone else. I just can't remember who it was now. That has similar sort of effect on their skills, and I think they could really use that to great effect for someone like Jubilee. So that's kind of what I'm expecting from the character. To gauge her power level is kind of difficult to do. She, you know, doesn't really ever become like the de facto #1 for the X-Men. She's always kind of a sidekick character. She does have her moments of leadership, but otherwise she's not really that, you know, her power level is really not ever explored to that extent in most comic runs. But then on top of that, I don't know, they've just had a really bizarre way of expressing the X-Men. You know, Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men, but he's actually quite weak. And even when he came out, he wasn't really that strong with his original look. I'm not talking about his uniforms that he's gotten since then, but if you compare original Cyclops, he was pretty much as strong as Storm and Rogue. despite the fact that, I mean, Storm and Rogue are really strong characters, don't get me wrong, but if he's the leader of the X-Men, shouldn't he have something kind of extra? So it's really hard to guess, to speculate on the power level of mutants. They've kind of fluctuated a lot, and even though a lot of the fan favorites have been really powerful, i.e. Jean Grey, Phoenix Force, and Wolverine and Deadpool, some of the other ones, well, most notably Storm, but also Cyclops, have had a pretty weak power level by comparison. So I'm wondering now, what do you guys think of Jubilee? Will she have enough team-ups with important characters? Are we going to see any other characters? My prediction is that this is the last sneak peek that we're going to get, that the next sneak peek is going to be Jean Grey's uniform, and then we're going to get the key art, and that's it. We're going to have the three X-Men character update. We may have uniforms left to see, like, for example, possibly a uniform for Psylocke, for Beast, for X-23. I mean, there's other characters that could definitely get a uniform here. I mean, even like Gambit or Colossus could get another uniform. But I do think they're going to stick to their pattern of 3 mutants per update. They really want to spread the mutants out and not have too many of them in one shot. But I throw it over to you guys. What do you guys think? Are we going to see any more mutants? Are we going to see uniforms? Is Psylocke getting a uniform going to make her deluxe pack much more valuable now than Invisible Woman's, despite the fact that Invisible Woman has a better deluxe quest with the obelisks and the ISO-8 and the extra gold? Do you guys want to see a comparison video of Mrs. Fantastic or Invisible Woman versus Psylocke in different world boss stages? Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Hit me up on Twitter, Discord, etc. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.